All right, this is the calling of Elisha, okay? The calling of Elisha. It's from 1 Kings 19. Most of our time is going to be spent in 2 Kings, but let's start off in 1 Kings chapter 19, which says this, starting at verse 19. So Elijah went from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Elijah went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Elisha then left his oxen and ran after Elijah. "Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye," he said, "and then I'll come with you." "Go back," Elijah replied. "What have I done to you?" So Elisha left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set out to follow Elijah and became his servant. There's lots of things we can learn about Elisha from this passage. One of them is we learn about his job. He was a farmer. He did respectable work every single day. He was probably the landowner's son with 11 servants who he oversaw. We know that he owned the oxen and the plow because he had the right to burn them and cook them when he was done with them. The 12th pair of oxen also would have given him the perfect position to oversee all of the rest of the workers who would have been in front of him. But it had a huge disadvantage, and the disadvantage was that all day long, well, imagine the view that he had. Tushes all the way in front of him. 24 oxen and 12 humans all right in front of him all day long. Wonder if he was looking for a new job. Actually, he probably wasn't looking for a new job. Elisha had a comfortable upper or middle class life with the land and servants. Beyond that, we just don't know a ton about him except by how he responds to Elijah. Now, Elijah had this very unique cloak that he wore. It was a cloak that would have been a symbol of his prophethood. It was likely something that was made of a certain kind of animal skins that would have all been woven together, and we don't know exactly what it would have looked like, but we know is that it was very distinctive, and it was a symbol that he was the prophet of Israel. In fact, I think if I took off my glasses, I could probably pass as the prophet of Israel right here. What do you think? Yeah, don't clap for that. That's way too lame. Or maybe I could just wear my glasses and be on GQ, fashion statement next month. Anyway, he wore around this cloak that was called a mantle. And in this moment, Elijah is passing on the mantle to Elisha. Have you ever wondered where that saying came from? Pass on the mantle of leadership? Well, that comes from this passage, 2,800 years ago. And he invites Elisha to be his protege by draping his cloak over his shoulders and allowing it to cascade over him. In essence, he's saying, Elisha, do you want to be the next one to wear the prophet's cloak? To speak with the prophet's voice? To have the prophet's power, to carry around the prophet's burden? Is that the kind of future that you want to have? Elisha has an important decision to make. Now, let's just pause right here. I want to ask you a question, particularly if you're somebody who's been around the block a few times in the Christian world. You've been a leader at Christ Community Church or maybe a leader at some other church, and I want to ask you the question, are you passing on the mantle of leadership to somebody who will take it for the next generation? Are you finding an apprentice or a protege who you can invest in and help them to be able to grow in their faith? Because this is the way the kingdom of God moves forward. It's when one person invests in the next generation and they become a leader for the generation after them. In order for things to keep on progressing, you need to have a leader pass things on to the next generation. So what about you? Are you training somebody up for your journey group or for your MOPS class? For the kids ministry or student ministry that you oversee? For the work that God has called you to? Do you have an apprentice who you are investing in? Because ministry multiplies out exponentially when you have apprentices you give things over to. I mean, you can lead a group of 10 people for 10 years, and at the end you have a group of 10 people. But if you lead a group of 10 people for 10 years, and every year you have an apprentice that you're developing and shooting them off to launch another group, and then they shoot off people to launch their groups, well, it's not very long. Within 10 years, you would have 1,000 people that your life would have impacted because you've done apprenticing. This is the way that the power of God works in multiplication. And once you give away one apprentice, you train the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And God works in multiplicative fashion. So let me ask you, if you're an older leader, are you training up an apprentice? Well, Elisha sees this from a different perspective. He's accepting the mantle of leadership, and this is a life-changing moment where the great prophet of Israel is asking him to serve and then to lead. I mean, imagine him, just a farmer, being asked into this amazing position.